There are two major steps in our spiritual life, and in the first step, it is those who have gone a spiritual step beyond us, let us say the teacher, who helps us with our problems, shows by example what the attained Spirit of Christ will do, helps to smooth our way, by uniting with us in meditation, lifts us to a higher, deeper, richer meditation in which we too may receive this divine grace. The second step is when we realize that someday the Master will say, if I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. And therefore, work. Work while it is yet day. Work while the teacher is yet with you to help, to inspire, to lighten. Because the day will come when you must walk on the waters yourself, when you must live your own spiritual life, and the day in which you must be dedicated, ordained, that you might heal the sick, feed the hungry, bring light to the ignorant. No one may escape the responsibility of the Son of God. I will read from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life. In him, in God, was life. And the life was the light of men. The life of God was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word was God. God is the Word, the infinite. But God sent his only begotten Son into the world, into the consciousness of men. The Word, God, Spirit, became flesh, that is, became the Son of God in the consciousness of men. But the consciousness of most men was dark, so that it could not receive or believe in the Son of God. But to those who could receive, to those who had some measure of spiritual intuition and could perceive, to them the Son of God came and was received and made it possible for us, that is men, to likewise become sons of God. And now let us watch this as this takes place in your consciousness and mine. Think of yourself first as you were a human being before you learned of a spiritual message. When you thought of God as some far-off being, probably sitting on a cloud or up in heaven, when you thought of God as a sort of superhuman being, a sort of super father who rewarded you when you were good, if he happened to notice it, who punished you when you were evil, which he always noticed. In your darkened days, when you thought of God as a sort of super Santa Claus, whom, if you could please, would condescend to do something for you, and if you displeased, would hold you in some kind of darkness or punishment. Now think of yourself at that time, and if you can, try to remember how completely separate and apart you were from a divine influence, from a divine presence or power. How in that darkened stage you had to depend on yourself alone for your progress through life. Earn your living by the sweat of your brow. Study the hard way, the difficult way. Go through life subject unto all of its laws, health laws, economic laws, legal laws, many of them unjust, under the domination sometimes of family and sometimes of government, depending where you lived. Think of yourself in those days with no access at all to anything of a spiritual nature that could solve your problems for you, or that could be of help to you in an emergency. And then let me say this to you. At that very time, this Word that was made flesh, the Son of God, dwelt in you. It was in you, but with so much darkness that you could not perceive it. You did not know that it was there. It was a spiritual darkness. It was a spiritual darkness brought upon you by an ignorance of this truth. You did not know that within you, closer to you than breathing, was this Word made flesh, the Son of God, the light of the world, the creator of the world, of your world. And so you struggled by yourself with whatever measure of human wisdom you had, or whatever measure of human strength you had, or human influence or pull. Now, as you come close to a spiritual revelation, it is told you, know ye not the kingdom of God is within you? Know ye not you are the temple of God? Know you not that the Son of God, the Christ, dwelleth in you? And because you have been divinely led to this revelation, you believed, you hoped, you felt some manner of conviction. This sounds like the truth. This is what I believe, or what I would love to believe, that I am not alone in the world, that God has not sent me out into this world and then abandoned me, but rather would I believe that God has placed me on this earth that I may glorify Him. But how can I? In my sins, in my diseases, in my false appetites, in my poverty? How can I glorify God in that way? Or in my struggle to survive, or even just to care for my family, how can I glorify God? And the answer is you can't. But if so be the Spirit of God dwelleth in you, then do you become the child of God. And if a child, an heir, joint heir to all the heavenly riches. And so your first instruction in spiritual wisdom reveals to you that you are no longer to look up into the skies, that when you hear this, I shall look up into the hills, from whence cometh my help. I will know that hills or mountains refer to those high places in consciousness, the higher estate of consciousness, the higher places in my consciousness, so that when I turn to the highest sense of myself, when I turn to the Christ of God that is lifted up in me, turn to this kingdom within me, I am looking into the hills, I am on that mountaintop for 40 days of communion with this Christ that is within me. Now my vision turns within and upward. Upward within me, up into the high places of my consciousness, where I will discern that the Word has become flesh and dwells in me. We will learn now what happened to Saul of Tarsus on the road, when in a blinding flash he is blinded to all of his ignorance, to all of the past, to everything that he knew before. He can no longer see it, no longer is aware of it. And then, when all of his former beliefs have been wiped out, and he is a pure vessel, sight is restored to him, but this is spiritual vision. And now he knows the light is shining within me. The light, which is Christ, is shining within me. The Son of God has been raised up in me. And then for about 9 years he retires from the world to dwell alone with this secret, with this sacred secret. He communes with this Word made flesh within him. He tabernacles with it. He learns not to live so much on the physical sense of life, not so much concerned with the physical sense of life, with the physical needs or physical wants or physical fulfillments. Now he is lifted up in consciousness and he is living mentally. He is living in his mind. He is tabernacling in his mind with this spirit that has been raised up or born in him. Born in a manger, as you can see, born in a lowly mental environment, that of Saul of Tarsus. He who is humanly wise but spiritually ignorant. In this manger the Christ is born. And as Joseph and Mary carried the Master down to Egypt for several years, so Paul carries his Christ to Arabia and hides with it for quite a few years, letting it grow in him, letting it develop in him, until he himself becomes so consciously aware of it, so one with it, that gradually Saul has died, and now Paul begins to live less and less, and he lets this Christ live more and more, until the day comes when the Christ can say to Paul, begin your ministry. Go out into the world and preach me. Preach to all men that I, the Word made flesh, dwell in you. Not only in you, Paul, to all those you address. Say to them, the Spirit of God dwells in you. And when your friends, the disciples, and others try to say unto you, give this word only to the Hebrews, For the Hebrews are the chosen of God, and only they are worthy to receive this word. You will suffer their persecution. You will be tried for standing for this truth, that the Word made flesh dwells in the consciousness of all mankind, whether they be Jew or Gentile, whether they be civilized or pagan. You will carry to the world the universality of the Word made flesh. You will break this bondage to one religion, to one teaching, to one teacher. You will break this and reveal to all mankind that the Word has become flesh and dwells in the consciousness of all men, awaiting their recognition. And Paul goes into the world of Egypt and the world of Rome, the world of Asia Minor, and he says to those of all differing religious beliefs, I bring to you the message of the Son of God. I bring to you the revelation of the Word made flesh that dwells among you as the light of the world, as the light unto your world. I bring to you the revelation that ye are children of God. Neither circumcision nor uncircumcision availeth anything. Ye are already the children of God. Neither fasting nor feasting availeth anything. Ye are already the children of God, for the Spirit of God dwelleth in you.